All right, y'all. I believe I finally made it. I got a story to tell. The story to tell. Ramon, you don't see it. I got a story to tell y'all as soon as I get this worked out. I think I'm finally live. Let me tell y'all what had happened. Thank you, baby. Let me tell y'all what had happened. All right. So, first of all, I did this entire live already today and finished the live, uploaded it to YouTube, and there was nothing there. I had talked for 20 minutes, had a good conversation with myself. But you know what I called it? Practice. And so I came back because I still had to do it and realized what my mistake was. So I am learning. So listen, y'all. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Tanisha James, affectionately known as Coach Tooker. And I'm here today because just one short month ago, I did not even have a YouTube channel, but I was hanging with a group of friends about a month ago. And these people are really accustomed to the social media world and they wanted to do a YouTube challenge. And so we did it. And within 5 minutes before I knew it, your girl had a YouTube channel and was doing shorts every day. So for the month of November, we are going live every single day. And so I'm here for it. I'm here for it. It's new to me. I'm not necessarily comfortable over here in YouTube world, but what I know for sure is what is difficult today will become comfortable if I keep doing it. And it wasn't difficult, if I'm being honest. It really wasn't. I just had to figure this thing out. Okay, so I'm glad to be here. So, a little backstory on what I'm going to talk about today. So, God has really been showing me some things, and this last week or so, I feel as if I heard Him say distinctly for me to stay in a particular area of the Bible. So, I want to tell y'all how all that came about. So, what happened was I went to an event. It's been about 10 days since I went. I go to this event, transformational, life-changing event that my mentor hosts every year. And I don't know if anybody's ever experienced this before, but have you ever been on your way to something and you know it's going to be good? Like just because of who the speakers were, I knew it was going to be good. Uh, But when I came back, there were some things about me that were surely different, just different. I was changed. I was transformed. So at this event, there was a lot of things discussed, but one of the most powerful moments was when the story of the widowed woman, and I know everybody doesn't know this, but in Second Kings chapter 4, there's a story about a prophet named Elijah, and apparently he performs several miracles, and this is one of many of the opportunities that God had to use him. So the point that they were making at the event that I went to was that basically everything you need God has already given you. And so a lot of times we're looking for something and God has already given you everything that you need, and the oil is already in the house. So I took note of it. It was a powerful moment at the event, but I get home. So that was like on a Friday. That was like the 20th of October. I get home and one of my church members who leads a women's empowerment group with me, um, she shares with me that God woke up her out of her sleep one day, and I have not shared what happened to me at the event. And she said he drew me to Second Kings chapter 4. And I was like, come again. It's just one of those moments. And I'm like, say it again. And so I shared with her what happened to me at the event. And so we decided to, just share our revelations from Second Kings chapter 4 at the event that we taught on Saturday. And so I want to share some of that with you today, but literally every day since we had that conversation, almost every day, like God has shown me something that is tied to this passage. And so I'm very clear. Even yesterday, I was in a meeting and this particular story. So I am clear that these things don't just happen by coincidence. It's not a off chance that God led me to Second Kings chapter 4, and it is not an off chance or coincidental thing that he keeps bringing Second Kings chapter 4 to me. So I'm clear that it's something, probably multiple things that he wants me to get from this. There's so many things. And I've just got to take the time to unpack them, figure them out, really study the word and get a clear understanding, because there's a message here that God has for me. And potentially, in hopes that he has one for you as well, I am going to share some of that with you as I kind of dig and unpack and really, really study this, because almost every single time and it's so amazing because that little story is not very long. Like if you read it, it's not very long. It's probably all of 8 scriptures, 8 verses, maybe 9. I can't remember, but it's not long at all. You could literally just pause right now, go read it, and be done in about 2 minutes for an average reader. And so it's very short, but packed with so much. So the way we broke this down, for people who are willing to take notes, and if you can kind of drop it in the chat as we go, the way we broke this down is we discovered. I'm gonna say that we started with 4 C's, but since we kind of initially unpacked this, I've discovered 2 more. And I don't know, there's just so much in this little passage. So so that's one thing that God wants me to deal with this year. So I'm being obedient in that. And whether I share it publicly here, I think I will. But whether I share it publicly here on my YouTube lives, I'm in a heavy study of Second Kings chapter 4. And I say chapter 4 because as I start reading, I realize like, oh, there's more to the story. Like there's not this particular story, but there's more. There's so many things to unpack because of the man that Elijah was. So it's not just the story of the widow woman. It's, I think, the whole chapter, and the more I dig, it might even be the entire book of Second Kings. I don't know, but I'm doing what he says because I'm obedient, and I just know that when God speaks to you multiple times in multiple ways, he's being very clear about what he wants you to do, and I will not. I will not be disobedient. All right. So the other thing is, I've been thinking about the fact that there's like 60 days left in this year, and truth be told, I don't know how many of y'all know this, but only like 8 out of 10 people who say what they're going to do at the top of the year, who set a resolution, actually achieve that thing or anything close to that thing by the end of the year. So most people start the year off. It's very easy. And I'm going to talk about this probably one of these days because it's been on my heart. But making a declaration and committing to the declaration that you made is 2 totally different things. So when you have energy, excitement, and people who will listen to what you're saying you're going to do, it's very easy to make a declaration. But shortly after that, life's going to present opportunities for you to prove that you're committed to what you declared. And so you got to be clear before you get to declaring things on what you're willing to do. All right. So these are the 6 C's that I have learned so far. And I'm taking my time with them. I'm in no hurry. It is approaching my bedtime, but I'm gonna tell what God gave me so far. What he gave me so far. So replay gang. I pray that somebody will drop some of these in the chat for the replay so we can, like my friend Rochelle says, memorialize this for the replay gang. So first let me start with the story, because what I know to be true is a lot of people, and I think I was once guilty, a lot of people don't know what the word says for themselves. So a lot of people we go around and we repeat what maybe our parents taught us, or our spiritual leaders taught us what they said the Bible said. But did you read that for yourself? Did you read it for yourself? Okay, so no shame here. If you have not read Second Kings chapter 4, I want to encourage you. You could even do it while I'm talking, or later tonight, and whenever you have your Bible study time, your time alone with God, you should be doing that. Okay, so in the story, there's a woman who lost her husband. Her husband is a man of God, and he's in debt, and he passes because, and I'm not even going to go down this lane, but because her husband had a lot of debt, during this period of time, you could either like offer yourself or your children as slaves to pay to work off the labor. But it was at the discretion of the lender. So, truth be told, the whoever this debt was owed to, they could have forgiven the debt, but obviously she owed the debt, and the consensus was her sons were going to be sold into slavery so that they could work off this debt. So she goes to Elijah and she says, you know my husband, you know who he was. He was a man of God. And I'm gonna get my Bible out so I can make sure I'm not making up stuff because I do not like to do that. But she said he was a man of God, and you know him. He feared the Lord, and now we owe this money, and the creditor want his money, and I'm gonna need your help, because my sons are about to be taken as slaves. And Elijah asked her a very important question. First, he said, depending on which version you read, he says, what is it that you would have me to do? What do you want me? How can I help you? And he says, what do you have? Right? I'm not even touching it because a lot of times I'm not touching it tonight, maybe another night. But sometimes we think that helping people means like we're going to do something for them or we're going to do it for them. Like, we're going to work it out for them. But sometimes helping people is helping them get to their own answer. And so he asked her, what do you have? All right. And she said, now I'm going to quote because I've read different versions, but in the New Living Translation, she says, nothing at all. She said, I have nothing at all except for a flask of olive oil. She says, I had nothing at all. So this isn't even one of my C's, but I did a short about this. Like a lot of times you think you have nothing, but God has already given you everything that you need. You already possess everything you need, but we don't see it as valuable. So there's something that God has blessed you with that you think is nothing. So it could be your ability to connect people, your ability to sense how people are feeling. Like it's something about you, something that God has given you. And it's a gift, and you don't recognize it as such. So she already had possession of the oil. He didn't ask her to go get anything new. He didn't ask her to go accumulate anything else. He asked you, what do you already have? And she thought it was nothing. So then she says, I don't have nothing. He said, listen, go borrow as many empty jars as you can or vessels from your friends and your neighbors. All right. He never gave her a number, so he never put a limit on her, but he told her, he said, take your sons, y'all go in the house, and you close the door behind you. So this is where my first C comes in. Elijah, first of all, it matters who you go get advice from, because when she got to Elijah, he was very clear and level-headed. He wasn't flustered. He knew what God had told him to tell her. He was very clear. So the first C is clarity. All right. So when you are facing a difficult time and you're looking for God to do something in your life, it really matters that you are talking to people who are clear about what God has asked them to do. A lot of times we're going to our friends and our family, we're asking for help and assistance, and they don't know enough about their own stuff to tell us anything. But Elijah was a man of God, and he was very clear about what God, the directions that God had told him to give her. All right. So the first C is clarity. The next C is closure, because he did not say, go to these neighbors and tell these neighbors what you got going on and maybe they will help you. He said, go ask them for jars, period. And then go in your house and close the door, right? Which means when we're looking for God to do things in our lives, sometimes it doesn't happen in the presence of our friends and family. Sometimes it happens behind closed doors. There's some things that we have to close out so that God can do what he needs to do. A lot of times when we're in situations though, and we're closing things off, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. So I am impressed by the widow woman because she knew her circumstance and she knew what she needed. I don't know that she had a specific thing in mind when she went to Elijah, but it don't sound like she ever doubted that what he told her to do is what she shouldn't be doing. She was very clear on the instructions that he gave her, and she executed. She didn't question, she didn't doubt, she just did it. She did it. I'm positive she didn't know if for sure, beyond a shadow of doubt, that this was gonna work. So a lot of times we want to know all the details. We want to know, how this going to work out. And I just want you to know and consider that that's not real. That doesn't require a lot of faith. If God gave us every single step, you're gonna go to this guy named Elijah, you're gonna tell him this, he's gonna tell you do this, and it's gonna be fine, baby. She didn't have that reassurance that sometimes we're looking for. And so God is orchestrating and operating, but we go our own way sometimes because this don't look like what I think it should look like. All right. So the first C is clarity, the second C is closure. The next C is commitment. So a commitment means that you're going to have to make some sort of decision. And I really want to talk about this one day because, anyway, we're going to talk about it. But when you make a commitment, it requires you to decide. So even if you think about in our own lives, we all have things, that we want to happen. Some of us want to, make more money. Some of us want to have maybe better relationships with our friends or our families. Some of us want to grow professionally. Some of us may want to change professions. Some of us may want to be healthier. We might want a bigger house. We might want to change more lives, be more impactful or influential. Whenever we make up in our minds, okay, this is the thing that I want and that I desire, in that moment when you're like, yeah, I'm about to lose a lot of weight. Yeah, I'm about to save a lot of money. Yeah, I'm about to make a lot of money. It feels really good in that moment. You're like so sure and positive about what you said you were going to do. The feeling is really good in that moment. You feel great. That great feeling, most times it tempts you to go tell everybody I've been there before. I have really done it. Made these declarations of new year, new me. I'm about to change my life this year. I'm going to, and then I tell everybody what it is that I'm going to do. The declaration, though, is not the commitment. Just because I felt really excited about it when I said it, just because it sounded really good when I said it, just because I told everybody I was going to do it, that's not the commitment. The declaration is the easy part. I think a lot of times we want these things, but we haven't taken the time to think about what is it going to take for me to get that thing. And then once we get to going down the road and we see like, oh, it takes this, we out. We out. All right. So this is what I want to share with you. Commitment. I'm going to give you the definition for commitment, and I want to unpack this a little bit because this one was big for me. I love words, and I love knowing what words mean. I love using them correctly, understanding like where they should be used and what the words really mean. And so I wanted to be an English teacher, ended up teaching social studies, different story for a different day. Okay, well, I was an educator for 10 years, classroom educator, still am an educator. So the word commitment means the state or quality of being dedicated to a cause or an activity. So it's the state or quality of being dedicated to something, meaning you are locked in. Don't say nothing about saying anything right here, right? It also says the commitment is an engagement or an obligation that restricts freedom of action. See, we got to understand that when I choose one course of action, it's going to restrict me in another area. So when I say that maybe I want to save more money, it's going to require me to spend less money, right? So I'm going to be restricted in the money that I spend, right? So I have to be dedicated, but it's going to create some restriction in my life. When I say I want to lose weight, it's going to be some restriction around the things that I eat, right? Or maybe my amount of time I spend laying on the couch. When I say I want to make more money, it's going to be some restriction in terms of some maybe ways I used to spend my time that now have to be dedicated to what I said I wanted. When I say I want a good marriage, it means I got to say no to some engagement so I can lock in at the house. When I say I want to be a good parent, it means I have to say no to maybe some social things. So there's going to be some restriction, whatever you want. When you make the commitment, you got to understand there's going to be some restriction that comes along with it. So all I'm saying is this. When you make the commitment, you got to be clear that saying the commitment is not the actual commitment, right? That's easy to do, but that there's going to be some sort of dedication required of you and you're going to be restricted in some way. These are the things that normally mess people up. And this is where people decide to quit because it's easier for me to just not govern myself with food than it is to really achieve the weight that I want. It's easier for me to get whatever my heart desires than it is for me to say no so that I can prepare for the future. These things are easier, right? So we don't like restriction. I feel that God is wanting me to dig in somewhere with that. I got to figure it out. I don't know if it's in Second King, but we don't like no restrictions. All right. So I want to give you some synonyms of commitment. And I want to tell you like what else commitment means. So it means like the synonyms for it are dedication, devotion, allegiance, loyalty, faithfulness, adherence, attentiveness. What I realized when I looked up these synonyms is that every last one of these words is an action word, is something that you do. Not a single one of them is something that you say. And so a lot of times when we make the commitment, it's more important that we do than to say, right? It's more important to do than to say. This is the scripture that stood out for me. I try to fact check whatever I say with what the words say. So one word that stood out for me as it relates to like the way we talk and what we say is Numbers 30:2, which says, if a man vows a vow to the Lord or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. So for me, this means be careful what you say you're going to do. Because, and even if that is just saying it to God, even if you're not saying it to a person, when you say you're going to do it, you should do all that proceeds out of your mouth. So once you make the declaration and the commitment follows, you have to follow through on what you said you were going to do. So I hope that helps. It's my third C. Fourth C. I think I'm gonna stop at 4. I really do. Because I'm gonna say these other C's for another day. Another C for 2 other C's for 2 other days. So the other C that I wanted to talk about was completion. So the word completion is the action or the process of finishing something. All right. In this particular verse, we see this woman is committed to doing what she said she was going to do, but I can see that she didn't stop. Because as I think about it, and what was shared with me is like, I know everybody how she went to ask for a jar, didn't give her a jar. I know all her neighbors didn't love her that much that, and if they did, that's another conversation about community. That's another C. But the point is, I know everybody didn't give her a jar. So the text don't tell us like how many people told her no, but the point is she went and collected the jars. Enough to meet her needs and then some. All right. Somewhere in here, though, I question how much completion she did because the number of jars that she collected determined how much oil God gave her. So, had she believed for more, maybe she would have been blessed with more oil. But God could only bless as far as we believe. So, did she complete the task? I'm not totally sure. I'm not totally sure because the word says, it says she did as she was told. So that was, I'm sorry, I meant to go back to that. That was for commitment. So that's where I got commitment from. She did what she was told. She did. She ain't gonna talk to nobody about it. She committed and she started acting. She was attentive to what Elijah told her to do. All right. But for completion, she told her son, as long as her sons was bringing those jars, so they get to the house and the sons are bringing the jars and the oil is filling up. The oil is filling up. And then she tells him, I need one more. Bring me another jar. And the son said, there are no more. And when that last jar was gone, the oil stopped flowing. So God stopped where she stopped. He can only bless as far as we believe him to. So when I read this, I'm like, did you follow all the way through? Which I'm assuming she did, because at the end of the story, Elijah told her, now you go sell this oil and you pay your debts, and then you take the rest for your sons to live off of. But I just can't help but think, had she had more faith and got more jars, how much more blessing God would have had the ability to do. So he's going to bless us according to our faith. I believe that had she believed God for more, she would have received a greater blessing. So not saying that what she had wasn't enough. I think the question is, who was she intending to bless? So was it just for her house? Who else could have got blessed off of the oil that she would have had if she would have kept going? So those are the 4 C's. Clarity. Elijah was very clear. Number 1, he was ready when somebody came to him and needed his help. He was clear about what God told him to do. And that help didn't always look like what we think it looks like. So a lot of times people need us and we think, well, I could just give her some money, or I could just pay her some money towards the debt. And it is help, right? But what he asked her to do required her to do something. It required her to do something. In order for her to get what she was looking for, though, she had to shut some things off so that God could operate in this space. She had to be completed. She had to be committed, and she had to do exactly what Elijah told her to do. And the words say she did as she was told. So she went to, so I don't know how many times do we want help. We either God sends us somebody who gives us the help, or God tells us what to do directly, and we want to deviate from the plan. We want to go our own way and get ourselves off track. So here, obedience is key. But for me, personally, where this whole story just completely floored me was trusting that a lot of times you're wanting and you are desiring something, and you're like, oh, if I could just learn this or get this or do this, then this could happen. And what became clear to me, where my clarity came in, was God has given me every gift and every like mixture of gifts, because it's not just one gift. Like I have a distinct, we all do have a distinct, unique mixture of gifts that God has given us. We all do. And this was my other C. I'm going here, y'all. We're gonna be here for a minute. I said I was gonna leave my C's on, but I can't because it feels incomplete. And God told me to finish. Okay. So every one of us has a distinct mixture of gifts, right? So sometimes we're looking at somebody else and what they're excellent at and their unique set of gifts, and we're thinking, oh, that person's really, really awesome. Like take a Oprah or a LeBron. You know what I'm saying? Like you're looking at them and you're like, man, Oprah is amazing. So that's the other C, comparison, because Oprah is amazing. And she is at what God told Oprah to do, using the gifts that God gave Oprah. So what I look like going out here trying to do what Oprah does, and it may or may not be aligned with the set of gifts that God has given me. So rather than looking at what somebody else is doing and thinking that they're doing good, because they are with what God charged them to do. Recognize that God gave you a set of specific gifts and he wants you to do something with those. If he wanted you doing it, he would have gave it. So one of my actual spiritual gifts is shepherding. And at first, when I first learned this, I did not know what to even much do with that. Like, what does that mean? But the more I study it, I'm so intrigued. I want to go like to a real sheep farm. I really do, just to see what it looked like in my head. But I know that God knows that he can trust me with his people. Now, the problem with that is people don't always act like I think they should act. So I had to learn, but I'm just saying, everybody doesn't have that gift. So everybody's not supposed to shepherd people. I have the gift of encouragement and teaching. Everybody's not supposed to encourage. Like, could you imagine if everybody was an encourager, where will we get our prophetic word from? You know, who would evangelize? You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's only so much encouraging you can do. So if we had a world that everybody was an encourager, like that's great, but rah to what? What's the charge, right? So instead of like looking at somebody what someone else has, just be grateful for the gifts that God has given you. Like He gave those gifts to you for a reason. When He gave them to you, He had a specific intention for you, and you're gonna miss it looking at what everybody's doing. So if you want to be amazing as Oprah at what God called you to do, your goal is to get better at it every single day. So don't look at what nobody else is doing. Don't look left. Don't look right. Look at what God has called you to do. Do it every day. So once I realized this, I started encouraging every day. It's not whether it's on a phone call with somebody, whether it's going live, whether it's in my Facebook group, whether it's I'm in this group of this teachers group about teachers that want to leave the profession, and I literally just go in there and be like, "You got this, girl." I also give them other tips and stuff how to show up for their students, but I don't want nothing from them. All I'm doing is encouraging because it's what God called me to do, and I just get better at it every day. That's it. So instead of looking at what somebody else is doing, make the goal for you to become the standard of excellence. Like be the Oprah at whatever God called you to do. And so it doesn't look like what He asked Oprah to do. And I could go somewhere else with this and say everybody ain't willing to do what Oprah do, because some of us don't do things every single day. And I know that Oprah had to commit and continually do and grow and be better. Some of us don't want to do that. We be good for a week, then we on the next thing. So everybody not even willing to do what Oprah, whoever your person is you think is the greatest. So don't watch the people. Don't watch the scoreboard. Just do work. Be clear on what God called you to do. And then do that, but then every day do it better. Not better by leaps and bounds, just a little bit better than yesterday. And so a lot of times, too, the reason why we get things confused is because we're measuring success by the wrong metric. So you have to be clear on what success looks like for you. So there was a season in my life where it meant a lot to me to be considered a great educator. Like I wanted to go to school every day, and I still love giving the kids the best I got. But that meant a whole lot to me, at the detriment of mothering my children, right? Because I would come home and I would still be on doing teacher stuff, and there were no boundaries around that time. And when my husband pulled me to the side and said to me, changed my life forever, because he was like, you gonna need to get what happened, and I'm gonna tell the story. What happened was my daughter was about 11 months. She was about 11 months. I was a brand new teacher. And I just wanted to get it right. Like I said, when I started teaching, I didn't know anything. That was my second profession. I just wanted to get it right. And I wanted to be excellent. I wanted to hit the marks. I wanted to do well, because I was thinking this was going to be my career for a long time. I really thought that God had called me to teaching, and He did. And I can probably talk about that another day. I knew that God had called me to be teaching. I knew I had a gift for teaching. I thought it meant in a classroom. So I thought I was going to be a teacher for forever. So this particular day, it's probably about 10:30 at night. And my baby, who's a teenager, almost a teenager now, she's like at my knee, she's teetering around like 11-month-old does. And she grabs my leg, and I'm so busy that I'm like, go, 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 go. And I think my husband saw that from the other room, and he said, hold on, sis, what are you doing? What are you doing? He was like, I know, because I would literally get to school at like 7 in the morning, and I would come home and work till 11 o'clock at night. And I had to change that behavior. But my husband was like, you're going to need to get your priorities straight. And so it was that, and another episode that something else that happened. I probably will share it. I don't want to share it today. But something else happened that I knew was tied to the fact that there was no boundaries in my life as it relates to work. Like my work literally spilled over into my home life in a major way. And so it took me a little longer, but I locked in what he said, because he said, you need to get your priorities straight. Your baby needs you. And you up here doing whatever the school got you doing at 10:30 at night. And this is why I'm called to teachers too. But I knew then that I needed to make some changes. And so I didn't know exactly what that looked like. And it took me to suffer a loss. I'm going to share it with y'all. I miscarried. So I had Aubrey, and I was only wanting to have this one child. And I ended up conceiving and miscarrying. And I felt that the miscarriage was caused probably by me not taking care of myself, I'm sure. But with my schedule and just lack of rest and just not taking care of me. And from that moment, every extracurricular activity, I was over the drill team. My principal, she can attest, because we're still friends to this day. I immediately said, "Oh, this here will stop." And I went to her and said, "I can't do it anymore. I can't do it." And so she had to, find a replacement, somebody else to do it. But from that moment on, it became very clear to me that success for me, while I desire to be successful publicly, what matters most to me is what my children think of me and what my husband thinks of me. So if I achieve every single goal that I've set and I don't have this tight, I'm losing. Now, for somebody else, that might not be their metric, and I ain't judging them. But for me, when I say family first, I mean family first. And so I can't look at what somebody else is doing and say, "Oh, that looks good for me." I think we can learn from other people. I think a lot of times we get, I'm live, words. Thank you for my comment. Yeah. So I think a lot of times we get what success means mixed up, because we're looking at somebody else's definition of success, and that is success for them. And it doesn't mean it has to be yours. So when you allow comparison to walk out or to leave, then honestly, that's when your confidence is going to walk in. So when success walks out, confidence walks in. All right. Because you are clear about what God told you to see. Sometimes we look at people and we think, Oprah got something I don't. Oprah got something I don't. You think Oprah better than you in some way. And again, she is. And what God told Oprah to do and what he called her to do. The truth is, she is better at you than you. She is better than average. She's better than most of us in what she does. She's amazing. She's a gift. I watched an interview with her, and I don't agree with everything Oprah says. Like sometimes she say stuff, and I'd be like, "What?" But I watched her interview with Viola Davis on I think it was Netflix. I can't remember. But anyway, it was an interview she did with Viola Davis, and I just love the way she was able to get Viola Davis to paint the picture of what her childhood looked like. You know what I'm saying? And Oprah like read her book, and she picked out these key things that drew. Like Viola Davis told a story about rats in their house being so big that it ate the face off her doll. I was there. I could visualize the house from the way she described. I could literally visualize her room. I could visualize her sleeping in the bed. I could visualize the rats. Oprah helped her to paint this picture. It was so amazing. And it only comes from being an excellent interviewer. So she's amazing at what she does. But just, that doesn't take away from what God asked you to do. So don't run anybody. The point I'm trying to make is you'll be more confident when you start running your own race. Do what God told you to do and get to the destination. He gave you some directions and you worry about somebody else. Do what he told you to do. All right, this is my last C, and I'm gonna get on out of here. So the last C, and it might not even be from here at this point. I'm just seeing it out. I think I'm off of 2 Kings chapter 4. I think I'm seeing it out. So the last C is consistency. So this is what I thought about. We start, we stop, we start, we stop, we start, we stop, we start, we stop. All right. There's a road in my town called County Line, and it has like 955,000 stoplights on it. Seems like if one of those lights catch you, you're gonna stop. You're gonna catch all of them, and so it takes a long time sometimes to get from one end of county line to the other. And it's not a very long road. And the reason why it takes so long is because you keep starting, you keep stopping, then start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, the whole way down the road. Well, the truth is, some of us are doing it in life. We start something and then we stop. We start something and then we stop. And start something and we stop. When you keep doing this inconsistency, it's a momentum killer. It's not about what you do like today or one day. It's about what you do every day. So Aristotle said, "You are what you repeatedly do. You are what you repeatedly do." So every time you start over, you gotta like build the momentum again. Versus if you just stay consistent and actually do it. All right. So I thought about that, led me to thinking about the fact that there's 60 days left in 2023. And some of y'all probably already gave up and said, I'm just going to start in January. I want to encourage you to not do that. Not do that. So there's 60 days left in this year. And if you could really tap in and take full advantage of these 60 days, you could have made tremendous progress by the time January 1 comes and everybody's just getting started. You could already have made tremendous strides. So having said that, God placed it on my heart to do a webinar this coming Monday. And this is exactly what I'm going to be talking about. So you don't have to have a new year to have a new you. You can have a happy new year right now. Right now. So we're going to talk about that. Like, how do we get here? What are the things that normally get people off track? Like, why is it that we set these declarations at the beginning of the year and we don't follow through? What is it? What are the obstacles? Because if you could be clear on what the obstacles are, you could avoid them, walk around them, annihilate them, go them a different way if you knew what they were. So we'll leave with a plan for how you can take full advantage of the remaining time that you have in the year so that January 1, where everybody's just getting started, you are in full stride. All right. So the link to attend is bit.ly /Happy New Year Now. bit.ly /Happy New Year Now. And it's going to be this Monday at 6:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 Eastern. Again, the link is bit.ly Happy New Year Now. Okay, /Happy New Year Now. All right. So I think that's all I got. I will still be studying, I think, all of 2 Kings, not just the 4th chapter. I'm supposed to stay here and really unpack this. I'm very clear that God told me it's something in here for you. So I pray that this was valuable and impactful to y'all. It is way past my bedtime. I have a elderly lady's bedtime around the 10 o'clock hour. Things start getting fuzzy for me. And so I need to go tell my kids good night and tuck them jokers in so that I can get them some rest, the proper rest they need to have a great day tomorrow. So I am Tanisha James. I love y'all to life. And I want y'all to go be impactful. Just keep your word to yourself. Do what you said you were going to do. Stop looking at what everybody else is doing. Get busy. Be consistent. Stop starting and stopping. Stop starting and stopping. All right. That's all I got. I thank y'all for spending time with me this evening. It was kind of fun. Day 1 down, 29 to go. Thank y'all. And if this provided value to you in any way, please share with your friends and subscribe to my YouTube page and turn your notifications on so you know when I am live. I'll be back tomorrow. Deuces.